now to take that down one more level in terms of really looking at mobile ROI, I want to introduce Leslie Wood, the Chief Research Officer of Nielsen Catalina Solutions. She's going to share a case study that really looks at mobile ROI in comparison to other things, particularly Kellogg's and Pandora. Leslie's probably one of our most prolific contributors to the ARF, and so we're always thrilled to have her on stage. She's a pioneer and an innovator in advertising analytics with over 25 years of experience. If you don't know her, she's responsible for the research and development of Nielsen Catalina Solutions. At Nielsen, she has her BS in mathematics from Hunter and her PhD from the University of Albany in information science and specialization, which is why when I talk to her, we talk kids and not math. Leslie, let me introduce you.
Thank you, Mark. So we're going to talk a little bit about, we're all about mobile, but we're going to talk about attribution. We're going to give you a case study. Thank you to Kellogg's and Pandora for letting us share their case study and what brand it is. I think that's always great if you actually know what you're looking at, the data you're looking at. And then we're going to share some work we've done on normative data. So we're going to look at where does mobile fit in comparison to other media in terms of incremental sales and return on ad spend. So attribution, it's changing. Attribution several years ago was all about clicks and which click, and it was all in the digital universe, and it was all about last click and how did you, who did you give it to and how did it work. But attribution's really changed. It's really involves all about time and location and audience and all of those things. It's including a lot more media, now includes mobile, but we also have print and magazines and digital and TV in there. And it's also not just about clicks. It's offline sales. It's what did they actually buy out in the brick and mortar world. So it's moved out of the digital ecosystem. And that's really great. I mean, we've done this for a long time. Now it's called attribution, so they're kind of evolving together. If you take all of those bubbles and where do they land? So what we do is where it was the click and what do you look back? We look back from the purchase occasion. We say you went to the store and you made a sale, you bought the category. What happened that led up to that? What are all the pieces that happened before that click? And that's what gets us to understanding the incremental sales. So how do we measure this? First, we start with great data. I think we have probably the best data in the industry by far. It's phenomenal. It puts big data with small data. So big data is, in many cases, convenience. We only have one census level data, and that's in print. And we put that together with small data, which is the representative currency quality data. And by looking at the overlap, we understand the parts we're missing. We understand where the data is really great, what we're not doing well, and so we can understand the biases. We start with set-top box. We add it to Nielsen People Meter. The People Meter samples about 40,000 households, so big is 4.3 million versus 40,000. And we do the same thing on the buy side. We connect our frequent shopper data. That's 90 million. That's about 3/4 of the households in the country. Connected to HomeScan, which is 100,000. So again, big data, small data. And what that gives us is across time, we know everything that they saw. We know everything they bought, household by household, same household across time. So to measure this, we look at the households that were exposed to the media. We compare them to the households that were not exposed. We match them, lots and lots of characteristics, so that we can look at what's incremental, what's additional sales. And we look at this graph. We have the prior to the campaign beginning, these pairs of households, they match, they bought the same things, and then advertising happens and they're different. Most of you probably know all of these pieces, but I was asked to share. So the key things we look at are return on ad spend. That's for every dollar you spend, how many dollars in incremental sales do you get? So you spend $1, do you get $2 or $3 or $1 back in additional sales? If you take out the dollars that were paid for media, we look at the incremental sales per reached household. So that's looking at how much did you drive for each reached household. And then if you remove reach and you just look at impressions or CPMs, it's the incremental sales per thousand. So I'm going to take you through these metrics both for the case study and then into the norms. So here's our Kellogg's Pandora case study. So Kellogg's has Pop-Tarts. Their strategy, they wanted to go out and they wanted to deliver relevant content to young adults. These are not people who work here at Facebook, not the healthy kale salad and all this. This is Pop-Tarts for breakfast. I mean, all right, that's, they want to accelerate these lapsed buyers, people who've gone healthy, bring them back to the Pop-Tarts. And they want to grow sales, right? So how do they do this? Pandora says, show me you know me. That's their idea is that they want, Pandora believes that they need to show the customer that they know who they are. So the design was to engage young adults. It was 13 to 17-year-olds, mobile, all kinds of platforms in the mobile world. So it was audio, it was display, it was branded radio, all in the mobile world, some tablet, some web, but all a digital environment. The consumers are mobile cross-platform, content ninjas, and ever-changing listening patterns, people who listen all over the place. So they built a radio station. I guess it was a cool radio station, Pop-Tarts Radio. And they built that into the app. And sure enough, they got, there were several versions. And they got 350,000 station ads, which for them, a lot of people adding those stations in. Well over an hour, 81 minutes average times listening to this Pop-Tarts radio, and 466,000 total hours listened. So an awful lot of consumption by building this app in Pandora and delivering it across these platforms. These numbers are all nice. You know, you like these kind of numbers. They look like real results. But the real thing you want to end up looking at is, well, what did that do to sales? Among people who actually engaged, did that change their behavior? And so they start with having this app really say, I understand who you are, the kind of music you like, the kind of station you want. They build an attention strategy. It had all kinds of, they invoke the power of audio. And then they have this idea that the end is a starting point, which is really learn from what you put out there, measure, learn, put out there, measure, learn. So it's a cycle. It's a continuous measurement, continuous learning cycle. And what we measured was the return on attention, ad spend, and mobile. There were 7% incremental sales, which really substantially more than 3 times lift, well above 3 in terms of the per dollar spend, well over 3 times as many dollars in incremental sales. So substantial gain using mobile and putting it into this platform. The impressions were substantially overlap impressions between audio, video, and display. The incremental sales were there as well. Interestingly, we saw earlier with Facebook and Simul Media, Dave Morgan and Brad, that they were talking about if you have this extra frequency, how much extra it builds. You're seeing that here too, but you're seeing that per lots of frequency, doesn't necessarily give you the return. It does per person, but it doesn't per impression. So we see the same kind of pattern that you were seeing in their slides as well. Frequency isn't your dear friend. And the same thing with if we look across devices. Same sort of idea where having mobile really has made a large contribution. So how does mobile compare to other devices? How does it compare to the other ways that media works? So to do this, we did a benchmark study. We looked at all of the media we measure. I'd been pushed to do this for a long time, very reluctant. I know that as soon as you start comparing media, you want them to be apples to apples. You don't want to be comparing things that are unrelated. So brought in a team. Dave Poltrak's here. He was part of the team. Jim Spaeth and Alice Sylvester were consultants representing the industry. Jasper Snyder from the ARF was a key consultant and advisor to our group. And then we had three media. We had Britta from